What's up everybody, welcome back to a brand new video on Lexalexus. Today it is the championship score predictions. We've got to get those predictions in nice and quickly here because after this video, in a couple of hours time, Watford play Burnley. So we've got to get our predictions pretty swiftly. So let's hope that we can get all of our predictions in on time. I will be briefly talking about the midweek action in the Carabao Cup as well as I'm going through my predictions. If you guys want to know how the prediction league is going, this is how it's looking like so far. Andy Newbold leading right up front. He's had a terrific start so far, nearly picking up 20 points in his opening 2 games. So he's done a stellar job so far. Rest of us need to try and catch up, which we've now got a chance to do so if we get some good scores for this week. If you want to enter the prediction league, all you've got to do, enter your score predictions in the comments down below. That's as simple as that. If you guys all you see, please give the video a like. It just really to the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button if you're not done so. It really helps. And please also share the channel too. That really helps as well. But without any further ado, let's start predicting these weekend's games. So the first game to predict is Watford versus Burnley. This is going to be tonight's game happening later on. I think both of these teams have actually looked good in spells. You know, it's 2 recently relegated teams and both would definitely want to get one over the other to show how prepared they are in terms of the hard slog that is the Championship. And both teams have managed to win one and draw one in their opening games as well. You know, both followed by a clean sheet and then both followed by a 1-1 draw. So in terms of head-to-head records, in terms of their first couple of games, it really couldn't be more close and neck, to be honest. So I think this will be a very interesting contest. I think Watford at home, I think, will look relatively comfortable. With Burnley, I think they'll have a lot of the ball, and that'll be interesting because Brom actually had a lot of the ball against them. And at times, Watford did struggle with that. But Watford, I think in general, if they get their front 3 in the game, I think they're one of the most dangerous teams in the Championship. As a prediction, I have a feeling that probably a moment of magic from Dennis or Sarr might make the difference. I'm going to go for a 1-0 home victory to Watford. I don't think there'll be many goals in this one. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. So the early game on the Saturday is Cardiff versus Birmingham. A very interesting choice for an early game, but I do think this game will actually be pretty close going into this game. Now, they actually both had some Carabao Cup action, both with a defeat in Carabao Cup as well. Cardiff losing out to lower league Portsmouth by 3-0. A very changed team, but regardless, it was a very embarrassing way to go out. And with Birmingham, to be fair, they put a really good fight on themselves, to be fair. However, they did lose out to Norwich on penalty, so a devastating way for them to get knocked out of the Carabao Cup. But they can look at this maybe a blessing of disguise because now they can concentrate on league form, which I think will be very important for Birmingham. To edge a team, I can't actually, to be honest. I think they're really, really close. I think both got similar qualities going forward and at the back. So therefore, I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this game for me. I don't see any team edging over the other. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Blackpool versus Swansea. This is really interesting. So Swansea have only picked up 1 point so far this season. They also got knocked out of the Carabao Cup on penalties this time to lower league Oxford. Blackpool also got knocked out of the Carabao Cup to penalties, but this time they're actually getting knocked out by League 2 team Barrow. So both of these teams will want to have a really good response going into this game. I think Blackpool had a really good performance in their recent times that they played against Swansea. Swansea, I'm a bit worried about them. It's looking like the same vulnerabilities that they're having with Russell Martin Ball is just going back again. Loads of possession, you know, being very, very wasteful and being slack at the back. I wouldn't say Blackpool are the most drilled at the back either though. So it could mean we could see some weaknesses within both teams when they attack each other. As a prediction, Swansea, I feel like I've got more firepower, but I think Blackpool might actually get something here. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this game. Probably a bit of a shock, but I think Blackpool might get a point. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Huddersfield versus Stoke City. So Huddersfield are one of only 2 teams to not pick up a single point so far this season. And with the signs that we're seeing from them, it's not looking like it's really going to change anytime soon. They got knocked out by Preston North End in midweek in the Carabao Cup. A pretty humiliating circumstances as well, losing 4-1 to a team with Preston who have not actually scored a single league goal before this game as well. Stoke, they managed to get knocked out as well by Morecambe on penalties. So the story of the Carabao Cup was the amount of Championship teams getting knocked out, and these are two other teams that got knocked out as well. I think Stoke may edge this though. I do think they've got better firepower. I think there's just that tiny bit of tension going around Huddersfield at the moment, and I do think what Huddersfield need is a stroke of luck. You know, results go their way, which can kickstart their season, but at the moment, I see Stoke being more prepared. So as a prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 Stoke, and I think Stoke will then pick up their second win of the season. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Hull versus Norwich City. This is very interesting, I think. So Hull are actually ahead of Norwich in the table because they managed to win their opening game against Bristol City, of course. And now with these two teams, Norwich, of course, as I mentioned already, managed to go through to round 2 of the Carabao Cup by beating Birmingham on penalties. Hull, on the other hand, did get knocked out of the Carabao Cup, and this time by League 2 Bradford City, led by Mark Hughes. Now, what I will say, I do think Hull have got some great potential, but I do fear that they're not looking very clinical. I think Norwich the same. I think both teams are, still trying to find their feet with a lot of new players in. Norwich definitely trying to find more confidence. They did look good at one stage against Birmingham, but then wavered a little bit at times as well. So this maybe could be the game that Norwich identify themselves, as what they're going to be in the Championship. However, I think both of those teams are not going to produce much goal-mouth action. So I was thinking 0-0, but I might actually edge Norwich. I'm going to go for 1-0 to Norwich. Let me know what you think in the comments. Next game to predict is Luton versus Preston. So both these teams really need to get onto the mark this season. It's the two lowest goal scorers in the Championship currently this season playing against each other. So I tell you what, I was very close to predicting a 0-0 draw, but I've not actually done that actually. So Preston, one of the few Championship teams to go through to the Carabao Cup actually. So that's made things very, very interesting in that front there. They faced Luton Town, which they did get knocked out, this time by League 2 Newport. So they'll be wanting to have a great response here. A very changed team, we've seen the likes of Carlos Mendes Gomez getting on the score sheet for that game. So I definitely think Luton will go full strength. And same with Preston actually. And typically between these two teams, I think it's really, really close. So I think it'll be the same scenario. I might just edge Luton, I think they've got better depth right now, and I think Preston are still going to be incredibly wasteful. So therefore, I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Luton Town. So it will mean that Luton pick up another win. But let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Millwall versus Coventry. So Millwall also managed to get knocked out of the Carabao Cup, but that was last week actually when they faced Cambridge United. Coventry also got dispatched of the Carabao Cup, but pretty embarrassingly, a bit similar to Huddersfield, they also lose 4-1, this time to fellow Championship side Bristol City, and it was pretty comprehensive. Circumstances really didn't go their way though. They had to play that Carabao Cup game in the Pirelli Stadium rather than the Coventry Building Society Arena, because obviously they're having the troubles with the Wasps, using that ground during the Commonwealth, and the pitch is just not at a great condition at the moment. They got an away game though, so they're going to hope when they get to their next home game that maybe they can salvage their stadium, because if not, the EFL will definitely not be pleased with that, and they could start awarding deductions as well, which would be really harsh, but understandably they want to keep the integrity of the competition. Now with Millwall, I definitely think, for what I've seen of them so far, they got that defensive naivety. They showed it, when they played against Sheffield United, and they really could have conceded more goals. But they do have something going about them, going forward as well. And set pieces, they'll be an absolute nightmare. And Coventry defending set pieces, for what I saw against Sunderland, have not looked good with those so far. So as a prediction, I might slightly edge Millwall for this game. I'm going to go for 2-1 Millwall. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Rotherham versus Reading. So these are two teams I expect to be fighting a relegation battle, but this could be a really crucial game for both of these teams, thinking about the long term of this season. So Rotherham were one of a few teams in the Championship to go through to round 2. They narrowly beat Port Vale by 2-1. And then we see Reading, they managed to get knocked out of the competition as well. There's just a lot of Championship teams that are getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup. And Reading was another result of that. I think this time losing to Stevenage as well. I saw another League Two team. So, what I will say with Reading, I think they've actually created a lot of chances. And I think that what's let them down a little bit and why they've not actually picked up more points is that they've just not been as clinical with their chances. You know, they beat Cardiff by being dangerously clinical and just producing moments out of nothing. I think we could see a similar game then, but I think Rotherham will be very frustrating. I think with their first home game that they played against Swansea, I think they actually only had 25% of the ball, but they actually had more shots on goals. So Reading could be very aware of that. But as a prediction, however, I'm going to slightly edge the Royals. I'm going to go for 2-1 away win to Reading. I think they actually may have a decent start to the season. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Sunderland versus Queen's Park Rangers. So Sunderland have been really entertaining actually, but they've been another team knocked out in the Carabao Cup, this time to lower league Sheffield Wednesday. That was a really good contest though. Sheffield Wednesday managed to edge out by 2-0, managing to get their revenge after losing out going into the Championship since Sunderland beat them in the playoff semi-final. They face a QPR side where they played a pretty uninspiring game against Charlton, which eventually they lost anyway on penalties with the game ending 0-0. One thing I will say about QPR, I think Chris Willock is the heart of that team. He created pretty much QPR having a 3-goal cushion against Middlesbrough before they get pegged back twice. But if I'm right saying I think Chris Willock is unavailable, I think there is a couple of injuries to key players. And Sunderland have actually looked really good going forward so far. So as a prediction, I'm going to edge Sunderland to get a win at home. Their first win of the Stadium Light in this Championship season. So I'm going to go 3-1 Sunderland. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Wigan versus Bristol City. Now this I think is a very interesting game to predict actually. So Wigan at the start of the season have generally looked quite good. They picked up 2 draws as their starting point. And, you know, to get an away draw, especially against Norwich in their last game, I think they did a terrific job to actually get a decent result. But once again, Wigan, another team that get knocked out of the Carabao Cup. Bristol City, on the other hand, showed most of the Championship how it's done and beat their Championship rivals Coventry by 4-1. Now, I do think with this game, I think the way for Wigan play, the way they build up and how difficult it is going to be to break them down, especially with how physical they are in that midfield, I think Bristol City may struggle with that. I do think Bristol City have looked pretty flaky and a bit flowery with their consistency. They don't really have it. So, unfortunately, I don't think Bristol City will win this one, but I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. I think this will be pretty close. Let me know what you think in the comments. Next game to predict is Sunday's games now. We'll start off with Middlesbrough versus Sheffield United. So, Middlesbrough managed to get knocked out of the Carabao Cup as well. It's looking very, very repetitive at this stage when I'm just listing all the teams that got knocked out. And devastatingly as well, they lose to a last-minute goal by Barnsley in the 94th minute. Sheffield United also get knocked out of the Carabao Cup very recently. They actually lost 1-0 to West Brom. Carlin Grant getting the only goal, and former Sheffield United player Callum Robinson getting the assist as well, which should have made things very interesting in that front there. Now, Middlesbrough have been involved in some pretty tight games so far. Even when they lost 3-2 to QPR, they still found a way to only lose by 1 goal. I think Sheffield United, if they keep most of the squad that they got, still, you know, especially with their opening 2 games, I think they'll be alright with this one. If they play anything like they did against Millwall, I think they'll have a really good game. As a prediction, no, I'm going to sit on the fence. I can't really edge them. I'm not feeling brave enough. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Let me know what you think of that game in the comments down below. Should be a really good game. Last game to predict is Blackburn versus West Brom. Now, Blackburn, the only team to still have a 100% start at this stage. And in the Carabao Cup, they're one of the few teams to actually go through to round 2. They had a Carabao Cup curse as well, Blackburn. Things are looking very positive under John Dale Thomason so far. You know, they scored 9 goals in their opening 3 matches and 0 goals conceded so far. They do, however, have to face a West Brom team where they've got the player who's creating the most chances in this current championship season, which is Jed Wallace. And if he's featured, I think it'll definitely give Blackburn a really big test. Now, I do think with this game, I don't think we'll see many goals. I think West Brom being pretty wasteful with their chances. Blackburn have been a little bit more clinical, but they don't necessarily create as many chances, nowhere near as many chances as West Brom tend to do. If West Brom play like they did against Watford, I think they'll do pretty well, because they looked really good against Watford. It was just a shame that, the chances they missed, that they didn't get the win for them. So if they take those chances any other day, they definitely would have scored at least 2-3 goals. As a prediction for this game, I'm actually going to go for a bit of a shock. And I'm going to say Blackburn continue their really good form. I'm going to go for 1-0 home victory to Blackburn. Let me know what you think in the comments. So guys, these are my score predictions for the Championship Week 3 done. If you guys enjoyed what you saw, please give the video a like and just to help. Make sure you remember, guys, to comment your predictions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and please subscribe as well, just to see more of me on the channel. There'll be live streams coming up as well. But that will have to wrap it up for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for the end of this video. As always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.